Welcome to your new religion, the Church of Dog. It is so nice to have you back, believers in dog. Our Church of Dog has 2 more true stories all ready for you today. Also, we have added a link in the description to our ongoing list of official Church of Dog holidays, which we will now update with each sermon and provide fresh links. I would like to say that we are just beginning this holy journey together, and I am very grateful for the 21 subscribers after only a matter of days. Let us watch this number grow together so that we may compete with Catholicism. Here's your first true story.
It is time for
This Dog in History.
2003, Warwickshire, England. It was pitch black in there, and small. With so much junk, it was difficult to even lie down. She had some water from a puddle that seeped in. It had been a long time without eating. And yet, unbeknownst to her, she would one day become well known and have great purpose and joy. Even if she had known it, it would have been impossible for her to believe at that time. The humans were always angry at her, but she didn't know why. They finally put her in this little building outside and closed the door. Throughout each day, she would hear different noises from outside, but she couldn't see or smell what was happening. Sometimes she would hear other animals, which excited her. She liked all kinds of animals. Then one morning she heard noises, loud noises from the human's house. She was agitated. Even though they were mean and locked her here, she felt it was her duty to protect the humans. A bit later, there were sounds right outside the small old shed she was locked in. After a few minutes, the door swung open, casting a bright light into the shed. 2 men in uniforms looked into the shed and saw her. She cowered, but had no place to go. One of the men talked into a toy on his shoulder, and then another human voice talked back. The 2 men had taken the yelling humans from the house and put them in the back of a car. Later still, another man came. He was very nice, looked her in the eyes with gentleness, and talked to her in a friendly tone. Suddenly, she was on the road in a truck. Jasmine, a beautiful greyhound, was given her name by the people of the Nuneaton, Warwickshire Wildlife Sanctuary. Jasmine wasn't wild, but she was welcomed by everyone nonetheless. Over time, Jasmine rehabilitated and returned to a healthy weight. And it turned out to be a very special day when Jasmine saw the sanctuary people bringing a large box into the place she stayed. According to employees, Jasmine approached the box when she heard sounds and smelled something. They let her watch as they opened the box, revealing 2 puppies who were rescued just like her. They were different breeds, but they shared the most important thing in common. They were no longer alone. To the employees' surprise, Jasmine only hesitated for a moment before sticking her head into the box and retrieving one of the puppies, gently at the scruff. She brought it back to her bed, then immediately went back and got the other puppy. Jasmine had unilaterally decided that these puppies were her responsibility, and the people at the sanctuary did not interfere, just watched in surprise. Jasmine raised the puppies until they were independent, but the employees were shocked at what happened next. Jasmine began taking care of other, different species of frightened animals that were brought in. Jasmine began caring for guinea pigs, several fox and badger cubs at different times, a fawn, baby chicks, rabbits, and even birds, the latter of which were seen perching on her nose occasionally. Her routine was always the same. When a box came in, she went to it immediately, sticking her head in and giving a lick to whatever species of creature was inside. The sanctuary people say that she seemed to be able to de-stress any terrified animal that came in. A wonderful gift. In total, Jasmine was the surrogate mother of over 50 different animals. You are loved, Mother Jasmine, and shall remain revered in the Church of Dog.
Hey, it's
Community News.
Do you have a good boy or a good girl that deserves their own official holiday? In the comments section, just tell us their name and something special about them. We have many official religious holidays to create at the Church of Dog. Why not memorialize your canine best friend? I will do my best to check comments for submissions and then add them to the list, at least until 366 days have been taken. Oh yes, did I mention that the Church of Dog will eventually have an official religious holiday for every day of the year? Speaking of which, here are 3 more official Church of Dog holidays just created. January 8th, Holy Mother Jasmine Day. Celebrate the nurturing heroism of Jasmine the Greyhound, caretaker of countless rescued animals at a wildlife sanctuary. Observe this day by acknowledging other species of animals around you. For example, do you know how awesome crows are? You'll need to take the day off to find a species to which you give your affection. January 9th. Bring your dog to someone else's workday. Brighten the day of strangers in their professional space on this holiday by bringing your dog partner. Try a tennis ball factory or an active surgery room at the hospital. Maybe a showroom for priceless, delicate porcelain from the Ming Dynasty. If your dog isn't welcome, that is clearly their problem, not yours. January 10th, Dog-Eared Book Day. Today is all about dog-eared good boys and dog-eared good books. Dogs' ears can be prone to infection, especially our floppy-eared saints who have their velvet mud flaps covering the ear canal. Take the day off if you wish, check your dog's ears for redness or sensitivity, then give them some scratches behind those ears while you read that novel you should have finished already. Now here's your next true story.
And now, let's get to
Human evoluzers.
As you may know by now, this segment underscores the silliness of humans in an effort to prove that dogs should inherit the earth. And the humans don't get much sillier than this. Let's start at the Los Angeles Zoo in 2018, where an idiot somehow decided that his best course of action at a particular moment was to scale the wall of a hippo enclosure, where several of the magnificent creatures were minding their own. He ran up to one, Rosie was her name, and slapped the 1.5-ton creature on the butt before running back to the wall and making his escape, no doubt giggling like a schoolgirl. Many of you may know that hippos are the most dangerous mammals in Africa, but these hippos, having greater intelligence and restraint than the man, simply let it go. They just couldn't be bothered with such moronic human behavior. Police looked at the video footage and planned on finding and charging the man, but I did not see a follow-up. Although I don't have any proof, I can tell you with some certainty what happened with this hippo slapper. The man went on to tell anyone he could about his great act of courage, particularly if there was alcohol involved, to the point in which people just started to roll their eyes every time he mentioned it. This social signal was lost on the man, who continued to tell the story, exaggerating each time for maximum audience impact. Basically, to try to keep them from walking away. Unfortunately for him, one of them who walked away was his wife. No, he no longer has any friends and people thought he was sad and pathetic, but the man vowed that if he ever got a friend, the first story he would tell them was when he ran on the backs of over 100 hippos to rescue 8 children and barely escaped with his life. At least that's how I imagine it. Now, if that appetizer of a story lacks some raw justice for you, we move on to the second part of this segment. The time a man broke into a zoo's squirrel monkey enclosure in Wellington, New Zealand. A man named John Casford is alive, but his place on this side of mortality was not always quite so certain. When Casford visited the Wellington Zoo, quote, high as a kite, end quote, according to authorities, his inclination was naturally to steal a squirrel monkey. After breaking into the enclosure that housed many squirrel monkeys, the man chased them like an idiot, very minorly injuring 2 of them in the process. Now, squirrel monkeys are quite small, each about 10 inches tall, but if you engage in math, which I try not to do, you will find that a dozen of them together then stand about 10 feet tall. And although squirrel monkeys are not known to be aggressive, it turns out that they can be quite defensive when called for. Well, John Casford called for it. The small monkeys, en masse, covered the man like lint in a dryer filter, attacking him until he tried to retreat. Unfortunately for Casford, his escape did not come before suffering a broken leg, sprained ankle, scratches and bruises, and lost teeth. The caretaker said that some of the squirrel monkeys suffered some trauma, but little in comparison to Casford's. In addition to Casford's lifelong public shame, a New Zealand judge found him guilty on several counts of endangerment. There were a few unrelated violent charges assessed in the same trial that occurred at a different time, but in total, Casford received 2 years and 7 months in prison. It is unclear whether or not his own enclosure has been breached and he has been traumatized by animal-loving convicts from nearby cells. Thank you for listening to our sermon this week, congregation. I hope you have enjoyed our dog-loving fellowship. Tune in so that you can hear a new sermon podcast every week, each containing 2 true stories. If you should feel particularly generous, please consider sending a few bucks to the Nuneaton, Warwickshire Wildlife Sanctuary. You at least have to see the photo of the man and the fox on their homepage. It's 7 kinds of awesome. The link is in the comments. As always, treats be with you, and for the love of dog, please ask your canine roommate to put their paw on the subscribe and like buttons. Thank you to Snopes.com, CBS News, Needorama.com, Reddit.com, Newsweek.com, Vice.com, Investigation Discovery, Pavi N, JNN from Yonkers, and RFY for content assistance.